or so and do that. Today's program is Phil, so I'm going to call him up. Phil, I don't know whether you want to use this microphone or the other microphone.
I have asked our past District Governor, John Jetter, to speak to us today. I was hoping we'd have more of our new members here, but we do have some here, and so the program will be beneficial. Now, all the rest of us, everyone here knows everything there is to know about Rotary and the foundation, right?
No.
Okay, well, it'll be beneficial for all of us then. Most of you know John. If you don't, he is from the Greggton Rotary Club, past district governor, district foundation chair for several years, many offices in district. When Blanks and I went to Pets this year, you know, I expected to see John when we got there, and we did, milling around. Little did I know, with thousands of people there, this guy was heading it up, putting it all together. That's a massive undertaking, and you did a great job with it. But, you know, with all the credit that he probably has due coming to him for all of his past accomplishments, I really can't give him the credit. He married a Gilmer girl, and I give the credit to Frida. Welcome, John Jetter.
Well, I wasn't sure whether I was going to have enough time to speak after that introduction. Is this microphone on? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, let's get started. Rotary Foundation. How many in here have heard about it? 5 or 6 that haven't. Well, it's the money side of Rotary International. Rotary International is the administrative side. That's the one that certified your club as a club. And in about 1925, a fellow named Arch Clump decided that we needed to establish a foundation to help fund some of the programs that Rotary International worked on.
That worked? There we go. I didn't think that was on. Did everybody get that intro? Thank you, Phil, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah. So, what I wanted you to answer at the end of this is, do you know what the purpose of the Rotary Foundation is? Do you know what ways you can support your Rotary Foundation? And do you know what kind of recognitions you can receive when you do that support? Rotary Foundation is a charitable organization. It's a 501c3, which means any deductions, any contributions to the foundation will be deductible on your tax return, and allows Rotarians to fund local and global humanitarian projects within a sustainable and long-term impact. I'll explain that a little bit later. It is not an emergency relief fund. When you have a hurricane come in, Rotary can aid in that, but they are not a relief organization. They're not a disaster recovery agency. They're not a hunger relief agency. They are not anything short-term relief. These are long-term sustainable projects. Rotary Foundation operates in 6 areas of focus. The first is fighting disease. And most of you know that our biggest project since 1985 has been the eradication of polio. It now only exists in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And even though the cases seem to be going up from what they were 3 or 4 years ago, I think it's because we're getting near the end and we're penetrating into the areas where there hasn't been any vaccination in the past. And we're identifying some cases better than we did in the past. Providing clean water. I was part of a project down in Trujillo, Honduras, where we built a large sand filter. This is a box, let's say it's about 20 feet by 40 feet by 15 feet tall. Has 3 feet of sand in the bottom of it. Water is piped into that tank, and then it settles through the sand, and when it comes out, it has been filtered. It's not necessarily biologically clean, so we added a chlorinator to it a couple years later. Saving mothers and children. You all may have known Carolyn, another past district governor. He created a project that put in a neonatal care unit in Guatemala. He's also done a backpack program type thing. You see in your schools. You may do it here in Gilmer. Carol also headed up a project with Refuge International that dewormed 1.5 million children in Guatemala. All of those were funded with Rotary Foundation money. Those are big, big projects. We're talking about 150,000 each. So you can see the impact that Rotary Foundation can have. We're also supporting education. Y'all do dictionaries too, I think. Is that correct?
Yes.
Growing local economies. We used to have something called group study exchange teams. Those have transitioned to what's called vocational training teams, wherein we may send a group of nurses or we may send a group of agronomists somewhere, and they train and advise people in a particular village or particular area how they can improve their medical care or their farming practices. Finally, promoting peace. We have a Peace Fellows program, and there are 6 universities around the world that present these programs, and they're 2-year programs. We've got something in excess of 300 peace scholars now who are working out around the world trying to bring peace in this crazy world. Okay, so let's talk about sustainability. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. You've heard this one: give a man fish, maybe I should say a person, and you feed them for a day. Teach that person to fish, and you feed them for a lifetime. The Rotary Foundation, sustainability means providing long-term solutions to community needs that benefit the community and can maintain that community through grant funds, even after grant funds end. So let's go through some examples here. These ladies are returning from about a 3-mile round-trip hike to get firewood. And when they first started out, when their first village was there, it was right on the edge of their village. But as the village grew and as time went by, they had to go further and further and further to get wood. Then using those fires inside their huts, you can see the potential lung diseases and things that could generate from the smoky conditions. So one club decided we're going to solve that, and they're out, look at it looks like a desert out there. How much sunshine are you going to have? Those are going to be around a long time, and the sustainability part of it is that they just didn't buy these 10, they shipped them 200 or 300 of these, so there was backup. They also shipped the repair things, tape and stuff that would be useful in repairing minor damage to these. Sustainability. Well, they got out and they've been taking water out of this place. At first, it was in the forest and was relatively clean, but now it's kind of out in the barren land. You can see the livestock are out there. You can see they're bathing in it, drinking it. Plus, it's out there on the edge too, so it's about a 4-mile hike round trip. Any of you would like to trade places with any of these women? There's always one, though, that makes light of something. But notice she only has one pot on her head, too. So, what happened? Another club came in, did a project, Rotary project, put in a well bore. Around the world, a water well is referred to as a well bore. And the sustainability part of this was to provide the repair parts, to provide a committee that managed the well, who could take how much, and a little bit of a monetary stipend to pay for any future repairs that might come up. Meanwhile, while their mothers were out looking for food, looking for wood, water, the kids were looking for food. In a lot of cases, this was not the most elegant grocery store in the district. Club came in and said, how about we teach the ladies, now that they don't have to do all this hiking and back and forth, they've got some time on their hands, teach them something to do. They can make some clothing and generate some income. Notice the sewing machines. They don't have electricity yet. Those are pedal powered. I can remember my grandmother had a pedal power. I don't know, probably most of you all have seen one of these. They must have had great legs put up with that. Well, now that they've can go and get a little money to go buy food, the kids have time. So let's put them in school. What does that do for the whole population over the next generation or two? What kind of opportunities are they going to have that they wouldn't have had otherwise? Okay, who makes these projects successful? Well, out of 1,000 Rotarians, there's probably 10 that are good at identifying potential projects. There are probably 30 who are really good at putting these things together. The grant application, the planning. There's probably 45 that are really good managers, on-site managers. There's probably 225 workers that actually do the project under supervision. But the vast majority, almost 70%, are the financiers. Those are most of us and our contributions to the Rotary Foundation. So who makes these projects successful? You do. We all do. Just by contributing to the Rotary Foundation. So what are the different ways of support? What are your choices facing? Well, there's unrestricted giving. In other words, you give to the foundation with no strings attached. The foundation can use it in any way they can. The annual fund share goes to local community projects and international community projects. And the way share works, let's say this club and its its members contribute $10,000 to the Rotary Foundation this year. 3 years from now, 25% of that will come back to this club to spend in their local community. The other 75% goes toward world projects. Why the 3-year wait? During that 3-year wait, those funds are invested. Those invested funds' income pay for the administrative expenses of the Rotary Foundation, so that every dollar contributed gets spent on a project, humanitarian or whatever, around the world. nothing on administrative expense. Restricted giving. That means there's some type of string attached. If you give to the Polio Plus Fund, it means that money is going to go to the Polio Plus campaign, to the eradication of polio. And I'm going to tell you that money comes in and goes out. It goes out almost as fast as it came in, because it's going to the folks on the ground getting the job done. You can also do global grant projects, humanitarian. Most of what we saw a little bit earlier was humanitarian projects, vocational training teams, and scholars, ambassadorial scholars. Our district has had, not every year, but almost every year, an ambassadorial scholar, a global scholar. Prior to them being called global scholars, they were called ambassadorial scholars. But the emphasis now is on scholarship, not on goodwill. So that the money that the foundation is spending on these scholars is going to educate someone who will have an impact in the world, much greater than just being a friend of the world. And you can also focus your giving to any of those 6 areas of focus. Finally is endowment giving. The endowment fund or permanent fund. This is generally where you make a contribution of $10,000 and it stays there forever. The foundation invests it. The income off of those endowment funds spins back around and comes into both the district and the World Fund. And then the Peace Fellows. You can focus to fund a, forget the term, it's a scholarship for a particular seat at a particular university for the Peace Fellows. Okay, how do you go about giving this support? Checks in the mail. There's a contribution form you can download from the Rotary International website. You can make that contribution to any of those funds. You can designate it on that form. You can go to the Rotary International, set up your My Rotary account, and then you can go to Rotary Direct, and you can have either a regular deduction from your bank account or credit card to a specific fund, or you can make a one-time contribution with a credit card through that mechanism. If you're going to give something other than cash to the endowment fund, you can have a direct transfer where you just transfer it straight out of your name to the foundation, or it can be part of your will, be transferred upon your death. We'll talk about benefactor bequest a little bit later. Recognitions. How many of you all heard of every Rotarian every year? Every Rotarian every year is an emphasis to get every Rotarian to give at least $10 every year. With 1.5 million Rotarians, that's 15 million right there. If you commit to giving $100 a year, that makes you a foundation sustaining member in FSM. That's $150 million a year. You can become a Paul Harris Fellow once you have had contributed or contributed in your name $1,000 in cash. You can commit to be paying $1,000 a year, makes you a member of the Paul Harris Society. Once your cash contributions accumulate to 10,000 or more, you become a major donor. And there are 10 levels of major donors. If you include in your will $2,000, you're a benefactor. If it's $10,000, you become a member of the Bequest Society. If you have $250,000 just laying around you want to get rid of, send it to the Rotary Foundation and you'll become an Arch Clump Society member. We have one in our district. We have 3 that I have been encouraging to contribute by kind of playing one against the other. Don't you want to be the second one? You don't want to let so-and-so be the second one, do you? We'll see what happens there. Funny things happen down the line. So you're making those contributions. Every dollar of cash generates a foundation recognition point. Once you've accumulated either through your cash contributions or someone else's cash contributions towards your account, or transferring some recognition points from them to you, when you've got 1,000 recognition points, you become a Paul Harris Fellow. All points over 1,000 are yours to give to someone else. But you need to be aware that you can only transfer those once. So you don't want to transfer it to somebody who already is a Paul Harris Fellow or a major donor in particular, because they can't do anything with those points and it's meaningless to them. Tracking, if you have your My Rotary account, you can go to your donor history report through the reports mechanism, and you can keep track of how much you've given to date and where you stand with your recognition points. Your foundation chair and your club president have access to the club recognition summary. This shows, as of the current day, what each member's contributions to date and recognition point balance is. So that if you can't get to the donor history report, talk to those 2 people. Okay. My thought as an adult is our primary purpose on earth, our legacy, is our children, our grandchildren. And I don't mean just my grandchildren. I mean all children in the world. What Rotary Foundation can do is to keep things like this happening by providing food around the world, by providing medical care, providing ways for mothers and fathers to make a living where they don't have to abandon a child like that. Rotary can also work particularly in the area of conflict. And why does conflict have such a big impact on children? They're uprooted. Some of them even die in the process. When I saw this picture, it reminded me of my oldest grandson. And it just really bothered me. This is a child that was coming across, was it not the Baltic, forget the cross there. But the parents just couldn't hold on to him, and he ended up drowning. So I would encourage each one of you all to support the Rotary Foundation, to address all these issues that are going on in the world. I want to thank each one of you for whatever support you've given to the Rotary Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is this on? Yeah. Been in Rotary a long time, and I always still learn something new. I always get confused about how the points work and everything like that. And if anybody can't get into there, Troy can run the report. I can run the report. So if you want to know where you stand, we can get that information for you. Do we have any other announcements before we dismiss? Anybody? We appreciate all of you coming today. try to remind those that aren't here that we are social distancing. We've got a lot of hand sanitizer, so we're trying to make it as safe as possible and see if we can't get the rest of our members